Have you noticed that things seem to appear often in pairs? The obvious example is the human body. We have a pair of eyes. We have a pair of ears. Now, we have but one nose, but it has a pair of nostrils. And we have one brain, but it has a hemisphere on the left and a hemisphere on the right. The one on the left concerns itself more with logic and reasoning, and the one on the right is more abstract and more creative. We have two legs. We have two arms. Seems like we're built in pairs. Now, why do we have a pair of everything? Well, I guess because one's not enough and three would be too many. Even scientists recognize in the world of physics that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Well, in this, the second in a series of videos, we're going to look at a type of pairing, and in this one we're going to look at symbiosis. In later videos we're going to cover parasites, and we're also going to cover paracletes. Symbiotic relationships, I think a very simple one many of you may have seen, is like a cattle, a cow, or some other beast, seems to have these birds hanging around on their back. Well, that's a symbiotic relationship, you see, because the birds need to eat, and there's bugs on the backs of the beast. And the beast has no way to get those bugs off their back. So this is a very symbiotic relationship. It is mutually beneficial. You know, psychologists have often referred to relationships of complementary needs, and sometimes have characterized marriage as an arrangement of complementary needs. I think that's a little simplistic, but certainly even in a God-ordained Christian marriage, there is an element, at least, of symbiosis, where each partner meets some need of the other. It's a symbiotic relationship. Now, let's go to the underwater world, and I have found an excellent video that has actually gone viral that illustrates and is captured on film a symbiotic relationship beneath the sea.
The best kind of symbiosis is called mutualism. This is where both parties get something out of the deal. For example, take this hermit crab. She has a garden of small anemones on her shell that she carries everywhere she goes. The anemones give her protection from predators like octopus because their stinging tentacles pack a punch. But the anemones have a great life living on her shell because they gather some of the scraps from her messy eating and they travel around with her to the next meal. Since the hermit crab uses an old snail shell for a home, she needs to find a larger shell every once in a while as she grows. When she finds one, it's as simple as hopping out of the old shell and into the new one. But what to do about the anemones? The anemones are so important to the hermit crab that she must also move them to the new shell. Without them, she's defenseless. Slowly, with a combination of tapping on the anemones and peeling their edges, the hermit crab convinces them to release their grip. Only the crab knows how to coax the anemones into letting go. They will not submit to any other creature pulling on them. Once the anemone lets go of the old shell, the hermit crab deposits it on her new shell. She simply plops it in place and holds it until the anemone grabs on. The anemone will then crawl around on the shell and find a good spot all on its own, while the hermit crab turns her attention to working on the next anemone. "15 minutes later, with the anemones planted on her new shell, the hermit crab has completed her move. She leaves her old shell for the next hermit crab a bit smaller than herself.
So what has this got to do with Christianity? Well, I think we focus on two elements in our relationships. One, our vertical relationship with God, that is very personal. That is not a symbiotic relationship because God doesn't need us. We need Him. However, in our horizontal relationships, we should seek out relationships that mutually benefit each other. In fact, in Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, it says this: "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." You see, we do not exist in a spiritual vacuum as Christians. We should have a link upward, a mentor who guides us and we seek their wisdom, but we should also have a link downward to a less mature Christian so that we can disciple them. So there's pairs, there's unity, there's symmetry, there's balance, and there's growth. It's a wonderful thing. Hey, listen, how would you like to connect on Twitter? My Twitter handle is found on the screen below. I also maintain a text version of these videos that I use for the, talking point notes that I use. And I enjoy doing these videos with a team of other Christian men and women. And we share them with you in hopes that you will find them inspiring, in hopes that you will find them encouraging, but most of all, in hopes that you would find them empowering. And I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel.